We're talking about all things ESG, environmental, social, and governance issues with Jocelyn Bamford, who is a business leader as well as a fellow host here at the News Forum. We have Bryan Gould, another business leader, and Member of Parliament Rick Perkins. All three are joining us today. So my next question, and sort of jump in if you know the answer to this, who came up with this definition of ESG? Is the United Nations involved? Is there a governing body? I mean, where did this come from? Jocelyn, do you know?
I'll jump in. So, I hadn't heard of ESG, running a business, and I sat on a hospital board, and my first exposure was the hospital foundation saying, we have to adhere to these ESG and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And at first blush, so, I never having heard of either one, get on the internet and start researching. And then I find out that the United Nations have issued these 16 Sustainable Development Goals. And what they did is they set their sales force, I'm going to call them their sales force, out, because there's one in every major city. And they went out and visited with corporations, telling them that they needed to do their corporate giving in accordance with these United Nations sustainability goals. And so I was like, well, what are these sustainable development goals? And you look at them, and a lot of them seem at first blush, who's going to argue with ending child labor? But hidden in amongst these 16 is one of the things that, getting out of fossil fuels. And I was like, hey, wait a minute. Canada is the biggest exporter of fossil fuels. What's that going to do to the Canadian economy? So, I'm raising my hand saying, how does this help the average Canadian? When you look at our GDP, it's resource sector and manufacturing are our second and third, and manufacturers need affordable energy. So if we're getting out of the fossil fuel industry, how is that going to help us run our operations? And when you look at Canada's contribution to greenhouse gases, we're less than 1.4%. So I was like, hold on a minute. Let's look at what this means to the Canadian consumer and the Canadian business person, of which, if you look at Canadian business, 92% of us work at companies 100 people and less. So that's where the dots were connected for me.
Right. If I can add on to that, Tony, future Liberal leader Mark Carney played a critical role in this in terms of his role at the UN in pushing this woke sort of liberal agenda forward. Typical sort of, we'll tell everybody what they need to do because companies and individuals and markets aren't capable of making their own decisions about what they want. We've seen a natural evolution of Canadians wanting to buy electronic vehicles, but we don't need, boards of directors telling us or being told by government that they have to do this in a certain way. So we're seeing that. A colleague of mine is introducing in the House of Commons the Get Out of My Business Private Members Bill, which basically would take it one step back to try and peel it back and say that if companies want to express themselves on social media on these things that aren't directly related to their business, because somehow they feel the need to speak up on, the convoy in Ottawa or any of these issues, that they would actually need to have board of directors and shareholder approval first if it's not directly related to the business. We're going to try and make steps to push some of this stuff out so that the markets can do what the markets do best.
Interesting. Who's the sponsor of that bill?
Tom Comich.
Oh, Tom Comich. Okay, great. Bryan, judging from the fact that you're an energy company, anything you want to add about what Jocelyn said on the fossil fuel front?
Yeah, I'd like to add a couple of things. First off, I'd say the people that are proponents of ESG have never run a company, because that's not how companies are run. So my people don't come in and do E on Monday and S on Tuesday and G on Thursday kind of thing. These things are integrated. And I would say the proponents show, in my view, just a complete lack of understanding of governance of a company and how it really works. Secondly, I think you're subject to things being hijacked, with CEO's favorite pet project. So, if I care about, just make something up, but homeless dogs, well, now my company should sponsor homeless dogs, and that has nothing to do with energy. Just on the energy file, I think we have a a profound failure here where we see chronic underinvestment in energy supply. And this is going to hurt people. And if you want to think about E&S, it's the economy that pays for this. So fundamentally, I would tell you that if you want, whether you call it ESG or sustainability.
I'm going to just interrupt you there, Brian. I apologize. We do have to go to commercial.